Hey guys, Bob Yeager here. So I figure you guys like to see something a little bit interesting. It's just kind of a hobby. So this year, the Woodcraft League got its own apiary license. And so the building of hives and frames has been ensuing. I'm doing a Layen's hive, which is a horizontal hive. It doesn't stack. I have a bad back. I'm not lifting 50 to 75 pound boxes up and stacking them and everything. The way it's constructed is it'll hold 20 frames. We start with about 8 with a new hive of bees, but the frames are extra deep and extra wide to represent kind of like nature, the way a log is constructed inside. But what's in between here are metal wires. So these metal wires loop through the ends like that and all the way through. And some people go without what's called without a foundation. Meaning they just put it in there just like that and let the bees have at it, which is fine. Some people put a little strip of a foundation up here. A lot of people use plastic foundation. I'm using a wax. This is a natural beeswax foundation. And it was imported from Spain, where the bees primarily go for wildflowers and mountain type of agriculture where no pesticides are used or anything. So I'm doing a lot of natural beekeeping. But the trick is with the plastic foundations, there's usually a little lip on the top of the frame where you kind of click it up in. These ones have to seal to the wire. And sometimes we have to do a little science experiment, but the way you seal it to the wire is electricity, okay? I'm not afraid of electricity. I worked in mechanical engineering. It doesn't bother me. But what we do is we find one of the wires, and there's a loop on one end, and there's a loop on the other end. And I just touch the positive end to one side, and then I touch the negative to the other side. And once I get a charge, I can hear the difference in my charger. Most people use a car battery. I'm just using a shop battery charger, big one. Just basically want 12 volts. That's the wire heating up if you hear a little crack. And there's one wire done. Then I move to the next one. It's one continuous wire, but you're only putting a charge through one strand at a time, really. And I'll show you the results. And I was only going to do 8 of these because I'm starting a new hive. New bees are coming tomorrow. And I was having so much fun. I think I'm on number 12 or 13. So I'm gently tapping it. I'm not holding it on there forever. Gently tapping it, waiting for the charge to connect. Once it connects, I just tap it and let that wire heat up and slowly sink into the beeswax until I could just see it going through each of the cells. Now, these ones in particular were designed to create worker bees. Now, the bees, if they want drones, they'll widen up a cell and make drones. If they want another queen, they'll widen up a cell and make another queen. These ones are specifically 5.4 millimeter cells, pods. They're specifically designed to create worker bees, and that's what you really want a lot of in your hive, is worker bees. Let me find that last one. Get that charge on there. And you have to do this very gently and slowly, or it'll burn straight through the wax. And then you've ruined the foundation. We haven't ruined it, but you've shortened it. So there it is. Let me bring you around the other side, and I'll show you what this all looks like with a little bit of light through it. I've moved my grow station outside into the greenhouse, but if you see, the wires are embedded, literally embedded into these cells. They're not on the outside of it. That's embedded in. You get a little less light behind it. See, maybe you can see that. See how it looks like it's woven in between, which is great because now the bees have less work to do. When they're first starting out, they have less work to do. And I have made too many of these tonight. But the frames aren't difficult to make at all. I just stripped down 2x4s to make the frames and then just run the wire through. You can also use fishing line, but if you're using natural honey like that, natural wax foundations like that, you can't use fishing line. And then the boxes we're building are Layen's hives. This one's upside down right now. So here's a full box. That's it. There's no more layers. That's the lid. This lid goes on top, and this whole box sits on a stand outside. These frames go inside the box, right? And then I have a spacer board, a divider board here. So when I'm only running 8 of those frames, I put the divider board behind it and blocks off the rest of that hive so the bees can't get to it. Because I don't want them just building comb anywhere and sealing up the rest of the box or getting into the rest of the box. When I pull the lid off, I don't need any caps on top like a lot of beehives have, and I'll show you why. So when those frames are in there, they come together like that, and it's completely sealed off from the top. All right, and then, I'd have to search them down, but I have a feeder. I'm just doing that for the first summer. A traditional rule of thumb is for sugar water, it's a 1-to-1 mix. Say 1 cup sugar, 1 cup water, okay? Traditionally, beekeepers will give their bees sugar water in the amount of, they use up 10 pounds of sugar. Once they've used up 10 pounds of sugar, that's it. They can fend for themselves. I wanted to show you, yeah. So there's these little wheels, and I'm gonna take one out for you. Hang on a second there. I'll let you take a look at my rafters. Let me take one out of here so I can explain this a little bit better. Okay, so we have these wheels, and this is a big hole. That's summertime use only, okay? In the spring, when it starts to warm up, or even in the fall, when it's starting to cool down, we'll use this one here because that's called a queen excluder. It will not allow the queen to come in and out, but it also won't allow rodents to come in. If you only had this bigger circle opened up, like maybe that much, a mouse can get in there. Doesn't take much, okay? If there's a hot day in the spring, but they're not quite ready to come out yet, or in the fall towards the winter time, I might vent it with this, okay? Because that's not going to allow any like beetles or wax moths or anything like that to get in. So when I start, I'm just going to use this, okay? And just to vent it, I use this, and I have a few holes on here if you noticed. I have 3, but I'm only going to have 1 of them open. The other ones I can vent if it gets too hot out, okay? And then the bigger hole is summertime use only. And the reason is because at that point, the bees will be so busy, a mouse wouldn't even want to go in there. They won't want anything to do with it, okay? So the way that's constructed, and then on the top of the lid here, there's vents that are always open, but they have screen, just regular metal window screen stapled to the inside, okay? So it's simple, and it's on both sides. There's no pan or drain on the bottom. We don't want any of that. I don't want any beetles getting in there, working their way in, and a lot of times the bees will seal that up with propolis anyway. Any gaps will seal it up. So I don't want any chances of any of that. This is a contained unit. It mimics what it's like for the bees to be in a log, their natural environment. And it's a very effortless type of beekeeping. You don't open that up as often as you would with a Langstroth hive or anything like that. And it's very natural in the way that we're doing it, okay? But I just thought it'd be interesting if you guys saw one of my little hobbies. It's not as much of a hobby as I mean, I'm enjoying it. I'm loving every minute of it. It's not as much of a hobby as it is pollinators for the garden. Like we're making hummingbird feeders, and we're making bird boxes and bug boxes, and planting flowers that attract butterflies, which are the natural pollinators of our area. Bees aren't the natural pollinators of the U.S. They're from Europe. They brought them over. The settlers brought them over. So I'm following a more traditional European style of beekeeping, mostly towards like Germany and Russia, those areas. My great-grandfather and my grandfather kept bees, and they always had these long ones. And when I was a kid, I didn't really know much about it. And as I get older and I study it more and more and more, I think to myself, there's no way I'm lifting 50 and 75-pound boxes, shoulder height, you know, constantly, because we're looking to have 20 to 40 hives in our apiary. And we want to make sure that the way I think of it is like I'm already in love with this, which means I'll always be in love with it, which means when I get older, I don't want to stop doing it just because I can't lift things. With the way this is constructed, all I have to lift is one frame at a time. That's it. That's it. One frame at a time. I don't have to keep moving supers up and down and all these things, and I don't have to keep moving one stack just to check the bottom of it and everything throughout the year. Now, I barely even open it. I asked an old beekeeper, you know, how many times, and he uses European style frames. How many times is too much opening your beehive throughout the year? And he goes, well, I open it in the spring to check on them after winter. He goes, and I open it in the fall to remove any honey if there's any excess. He goes, and that's 2 times too many. Bees don't like to be disturbed, so the less we disturb them, the better. And what's nice about these really long, flat-faced boxes, this is an insulated box. What I love about it is I'm going to actually do a painting on the front of it, which I love to paint pictures and things. I'm going to do a painting on the front of it, and actually bees will identify with the designs on their box. So like if I have other beehives next to it, they'll identify, the right bees will identify with that design on their box. The other thing is this is an insulated box. Actually, it's got 1.5 inches of natural raw wool insulation. That's what's in this bag right here. This is all raw wool, local, sheared from sheep. And what you do is it's a double wall box. So it's actually an outer wall and it has an inner wall. And in between is this wool layer, and then we seal it. So it keeps them nice and warm in the winter time. It keeps them cool in the summertime. And then if it's a lot colder, like in the fall, we have cold winters here in Pennsylvania. What I'll do is under the lid, right on top of the frames, put a couple pillows or a wool blanket, and that'll completely insulate the box. And it keeps them nice and warm in the wintertime, and they don't have to worry about anything. What's nice is in the wintertime, this is rodent proof. As long as it's closed up properly and the lid's on securely, it is rodent proof. They can't get in. So the bees can have a nice home over the winter with plenty of honey to keep themselves fed. But just thought I'd share one of our little hobbies, and one of the new developments with the Woodcraft League is we are doing apiaries, and we are going to be teaching classes on those types of things. And people are like, what does that have to do with woodcraft? It's nature. It has to do with woodcraft. Okay. Eventually what I'll be doing is actually building some swarm traps and going out in the wild in my area, on my property, and putting swarm traps up to catch wild local swarms that are indigenous to this area. And basically all I'm doing, the swarm trap will be in a tree, and when I move them into a bigger hive, that hive will be at the bottom of that very same tree. So I'm not taking them away, I'm just moving them down into a nicer box that I know no critters can get to them. Raccoons won't be able to get to them, and chipmunks and squirrels and the things that invade these boxes, or invade the natural hives. So if I catch swarms away from me and bring them back to my property, I have to do it over 5 miles away, because bees travel 3 to 5 miles a day. So they know how to find where they came from. So you have to catch them pretty far away. A friend of mine that's local to me, he's about 15, 20 miles away from me. He's actually bringing the first set for this box here, the first hive, and he's actually given me one of his overwintered queens that are already acclimated to the bees that he's bringing to me, and fresh brood, which means they'll be hatching soon, which means we'll likely have like a 2 to 3 pound set of bees right in the beginning of the summer here, which is great for the new garden and everything. So just sharing a hobby. All right, take care.